is a video lesson for noticing punctuation when pausing. And as we're getting to the end of our dimensions of fluency, one of the important ones is pausing. And if I go back to our initial Google Doc, we're looking at fluency. We're looking at what is fluency. We're right here at pausing at commas or periods. And I'm also going to give you some other tips for punctuation that you're going to have to pause at. So punctuation, we want to pay attention to that punctuation when we stop, when we take a break. And when we click on this Google Doc, we're looking ahead in the sentence for punctuation that tells you when to pause, such as commas, dashes, semicolons, and periods. You're going to read up to that punctuation, take a short break, and then read the next group. Again, here's our rubric for assessing. This is the rubric I'll be using for your Reader's Theater on Friday, so we'll be looking at assessing you that do you pause. This one would be absolutely no pausing, pretty much, all the way through. Almost all the reading is characterized by pausing. And so this is a diagram that shows you how punctuation plays an important role in when you pause. The only one that this diagram doesn't have is when there's periods or exclamation points, so like ending punctuation. So that could be a period, that could be a question mark, that could be an exclamation mark. And so if we look at this diagram, this is actually from, I think, George and the Giant Peach. But we look at these dashes that are put in here. So they lived, Aunt Sponge, Aunt Spickler, and now James as well. And then we are pausing with this dash. So when there's a dash in the sentence, we pause like parentheses to give extra information. So they lived, Aunt Sponge, Aunt Spiker, and now James as well, in a queer ramble-shack house on the top of a high hill in the south of England. I wish this diagram showed you that at the end of the sentence, I'm also going to pause. That's why you're going to add this into your notes. The hill was so high that from almost anywhere in the garden, James could look down and see for miles and miles across a marvelous landscape of woods and fields. And on a very clear day, if he looked in the right direction, he could see a tiny gray dot far away on the horizon, which was the house that he used to live in with his beloved mothers and father. So you see in there I stopped a few different times. This is a semicolon when there's a dot and a comma. We pause, we think about what comes before and after our related ideas in these sentences, and we think about commas. We pause at commas because commas can be used to separate items in a list. They can give extra information. They can also be kind of like an introductory clause when you say in the morning. And just beyond that, he could see the ocean itself, a long, thin streak of blackish blue, like a line of ink beneath the rim of the sky. So when I'm reading that, I hope you notice that I'm pausing at the punctuation. So in your reader's notebook, you're going to set up a page that has punctuation in the middle of a sentence. I'd also like you to add in the word pausing, which I can't add in up here. Oh, it's not letting me. Sorry, add the word in pausing behind this. And I want you to put in your notebook a dash and the definition of when you pause in a dash, a semicolon, the definition of when you pause in a semicolon, a comma, and end sentence punctuation. So you should have 4 categories underneath this title and then the phrases that are listed here. That should be in your reader's notebook, and that's going to go in the Learn section. Things to try when you're looking at punctuation is what punctuation do you see in the sentence? Pay attention to it. You're going to read all the words up to the comma or the colon or the dash or the semicolon in one breath. Where will you read up to before pausing? Do you see any punctuation in the middle of a sentence? Don't pause until you get to that punctuation. Try to read the words together like we talked about phrasing and try to be smooth. Don't pause until you get to the punctuation. So you're going to practice before you practice with your Reader's Theater script. You're going to practice with a student exemplar. Look up and watch the show. Watch me as I start reading it, and then you and your partner are going to take over. Try to listen for when I'm pausing based on punctuation. I walked up the stairs of the subway. We were almost there. I had been waiting to see this for my whole life. 5 years before this, I had been asking, Mom, can I go to the fireworks? My mom always replied, No, honey, maybe next year. Do you see how I use those commas right here to pause? Dad, can I go to the fireworks? All my friends have. You're too young and it's too late. This went on for the next 5 years. So now I'm going to have you and your partner continue reading the rest of this text, taking turns, maybe with sections. You can section it off and say, I'm going to read this chunk, you're going to read this chunk. I want you and your partner to continue reading, thinking about pausing as you read. Once you've done that work, then you can go back to your checklist for today, and it looks like today you are going to be, oops, wrong Tuesday. You're going to discuss this video with your group. Make sure you have your notes in your reader's notebook, and then you can go on to your reader's theater work, doing the same thing of thinking about pausing. All right, good luck to you.